me a moment here. Okay, the meeting is yours, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josephine Spencer. I would like to welcome you to the White Lake Township Zoning Board of Appeals. This board is a quasi-judicial board, which consists of 5 members. In order for your variance to be granted, you must receive a majority vote from the full board. In order for this board to grant a variance, you must prove a practical difficulty exists. Unfortunately, personal circumstances or financial hardships cannot be considered by this board. If your variance is granted, you have 6 months to obtain the required permits, or your variance will expire and you must reappear before this board. If your variance is denied, you have the right to appeal this decision. By state statute, you must appeal to the circuit court and have 30 days to file an appeal. There is no other township board that can overrule this decision. All cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. I will call the case, staff will give their review, and the proponent will have 10 minutes in which to speak. The board will then ask questions of the proponent, and then the public hearing will be opened. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes to do so. We ask you please state your name and address for the record. After the public hearing is closed, the proponent will have 5 minutes to address any questions or concerns. It will then be brought back to the board for consideration, a motion, and a roll call vote. And with that, Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Spencer,
Present in White Lake Township.
Walls,
Present, White Lake Township.
Powell,
Present in White Lake Township.
Shellac,
Present, White Lake Township.
DeHart.
Here, White Lake Township.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Debbie. Do we have a support? Thank you, Dave. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it has approval of the minutes on there.
Yes, we do not have any minutes to approve at this time. So with that, I will call our first case. The applicant is Creative Custom Builders. They're located at 7655 Highland Road, Suite 202 in Waterford, Michigan. The location of the property is 4398 Clare Lane, also identified as 1208-251-027. The applicant requests to construct a single-family house requiring a variance from Article 3.11.J, minimum floor area to construct a house that does not meet the minimum living space requirement. For the record, 3 owner occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance request. No letters received in favor of the proposed request. 1 letter received in opposition of the proposed request. No letters returned United States mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members. This property is 2 acres in size. It's located at 4398 Clare Lane, and Clare Lane is located on the south side of Brendel Road, east of McKeechee. This property is zoned suburban farms. The applicant is proposing to construct a house on this parcel with floor area less than the minimum living space requirement. The zoning ordinance states the minimum floor area for a 2-story single-family house should be 1,500 square feet with 900 square feet minimum on the ground floor. This proposed house is 705 square feet on the first floor, 487 square feet on the second floor, with total floor area of 1,192 square feet. So they're seeking a variance of 195 square feet for the ground floor area and a variance of 308 square feet for the overall floor area. The applicant did state in their application a wraparound porch would make the house appear larger and have a larger footprint than the minimum living space requirement. The zoning ordinance specifically states the minimum floor area for a dwelling unit shall not include area of basements, open unheated breezeways, open unheated porches, which includes decks, attached garages, or utility rooms. Additionally, the applicant's written statement indicated that they had purchased house plans and they noted development costs in their applications as reasons to support the request. The Zoning Board of Appeals is not allowed to consider economic hardship or financial issues when deciding a variance request. This property is 2 acres in size. Constructing a house below the minimum floor area requirement would not be in keeping with the surrounding properties in the vicinity. The average home built in that portion of the township is 2,200 to 2,800 square feet in size. So like I said, they cannot relate their request back to economic hardship or practical difficulty or financial issues. The planning department does not see a practical difficulty with this request and would recommend denial of the variances being sought tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Justin.
I have a question of staff. if I
Go
could,
ahead,
please.
Mike.
Justin, the quoted article in the zoning ordinance has a 1,500 square foot with a 900 square foot minimum on the ground floor. Is that the latest revision that the board approved?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. The township board recently reduced the minimum living space requirement and minimum floor areas. So this is a lower standard that would have been applied to this property 2 months ago. So everyone in the township recently received, I don't want to call it relief, but those standards were recently reduced.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nick, did you have a question?
Yes. Have other building permits been issued for any of these lots on Clare Lane at all?
No,
Okay, so this would be the first.
correct.
Okay.
And I know, Justin, that you can't answer this question. It's not really a question. It's more of an observation on my part. But I'm wondering if the surrounding homes, not only in this area, but completely surround, well, basically this area, but also within the township, are averaging the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot. My thoughts are this may very well have an adverse effect on the surrounding homes that are going to be built because something not up to the same size is going to be right there in that subdivision. And that's just my observation. I know you're not the assessor. You don't have that background. But that was just one of the thoughts that crossed my mind was we may be going to impact the surrounding properties by allowing something when it's clear that our ordinance not only doesn't allow it, but that the town board took the time to study this and then reduce the original square footage to a lower amount. That was, like I say, just strictly, you don't have to open your mouth. You don't even have to smile. Just, that was my observation. Any
Madam
other,
Chair.
Debbie?
Justin, did the developer of this land create any deed restrictions on square footage requirements?
No, so they're limited to or
Town.
adhering to the township minimum standards.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Jim with Creative Custom Builders. Hello, everyone. I read.
So you have to wait until I address you. We're still discussing with staff. Thank you.
My apologies.
That's all right, not a problem. Any other
Okay.
questions of staff before I turn it over to the proponent?
And I just as a follow-up, Madam Chair, to what you had said, and I guess we'll talk about it a little bit more when we're all discussing, but I think that comes under that the second aspect of the substantial justice. You know, the first aspect is allowing others to build as others have. I mean, that's loosely stated, but then the second one is not having a negative effect on the properties in the surrounding area too. So it may or may not fall under that.
And you're referring to the standards that every proponent has to
Correct.
meet in order to have a variance granted. Yes, you are correct. That is where I was going when I initially thought about this. Any additional questions for staff before I turn it over to our proponent?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will just say that I know there was a question about deed restrictions. The township doesn't enforce deed restrictions. So if there was something that was a higher standard than our minimum standard, we would not enforce it. That would be something that the developer, the original property owner would have to do through a civil matter.
Thank you. Understood. With that then, Jim, we will now turn it over to you. Please just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Jim Vayu, 10130 Elizabeth Lake. Actually, I'm giving you my home address.
That's fine. Whatever.
7655 Highland Road, Suite 202, Waterford, Michigan.
Thank you. Okay,
You're
just
welcome.
explain it.
All right. So you've already touched on a couple things that I'm not supposed to talk about. However, I would be very grateful if you could humor us and hear us out. And so the first thing is I'm going to go to some of the structurals. So on this house, it's not a normal deck, and I did put in the package some pictures of the actual home, and I think we're all living in a unique situation. Well, without question, this is impacted not only our state, our community, the world. Anyways, I'll start by saying the 705 square foot that we have for the basement, that not for the basement floor, but the first floor area, we actually redesigned the plan to extend the actual roof out 5 feet. So by doing so, we extended, the deck is out 5 additional feet, and it's completely covered by the roof structure itself. And the roof is actually being supported by the deck. It's not just a freestanding deck. It is literally part of the home structure. The home will not stand without it. We've added 591 square foot of a wraparound deck that goes around the entire house that will be, I understand it's considered outdoors because it's not heated. However, you have to get on the deck to get in the house. You have to get on the deck to egress the house, whether it's in or out. This is an important factor to us because I'm going to go into the next thing that you just mentioned is something that you don't normally take into consideration. However, this is something none of us has ever experienced. Matter of fact, nobody in the world has experienced what we're going through right now. And I've been doing this for 30-something years, and I do understand that financial issues are not normally considered as a practical difficulty or hardship, but the reality and the practicality of the financials today is so far beyond anything this state or country has ever seen. So I'm going to kind of segue into the fact that, number one, the homeowner is building this house. He saved his money his whole life. He's the caretaker of his son with disabilities. His son is now of an older age. And we're building this house to not only give them a new home, it's going to be more accessible, or not accessible, functional for their needs. They plan to be together forever. And with that being said, I just need to bring in the financials of this. We did look into a house much larger than the minimum requirements, which at the time we did start this, we were told it was a 1,400 total square foot, but so kind of irrelevant. So with that being said, I just need to put in perspective a little bit. The pandemic has created not increases. We're talking historical record costs that has never been seen in the history of our country. And I'm just going to give you, for instance, less than a year ago when we started this process, lumber itself has gone up nearly 300%, which is again, not only mind-boggling, it's never been seen economically before in our country. So that's why the owner, Doug here, paid for the additional deck, which is still extremely expensive. However, it's more costly than walls and then drywall and then electrical and then plumbing for square footage that would actually be a waste for his and his son's needs. In addition to that, lumber is only one thing. That's 300%. The supply chain has been choked to the point where literally all materials, with exceptions to none, has increased exponentially. And you would have to obviously talk about each specific piece to give you percentages or anything. But as a builder of 35 plus years, this is something that is mind-boggling. Matter of fact, if someone asked me how much their house costs today, even if I just built it and finished it yesterday, my answer is I do not know. And that's only doing justice to the homeowner, but that is the dynamic situation and the unique situation this pandemic has created. In addition to that, the homeowner has been eyeing this land. He knows the owner for many, many years. He's been waiting for this. He put his life savings into purchasing the land, and it was before it was approved, and it's not your fault, or it just was a situation that it wasn't public knowledge yet to him of what the minimum square footage would be. I also want to take that opportunity to segue that this house, I'm hoping you guys have the pictures of this house. Do you have that? Okay.
We do.
This custom home is small in scale, but as far as being, this is considered a luxury, rustic, elegant home, and it's actually the value. If I were to place it anywhere, and even forget the pandemic and the cost increases, this has a value of about 2.3 more than the actual square footage due to the complexities of this home. So the value, I'm going out of turn, but the value of this home will both match and actually exceed many of the homes in the surrounding areas. It will not cause harm or unjust difficulties to neither the existing homeowners or future homeowners in the subdivision. And also, I would like to add, once we found this out, the customer got me involved, Doug got me involved. We looked at everything. We did price another home. It was so far out of the realm of affordability that it just was not obtainable. So just so you know, we did make that effort. He spent thousands and we spent hundreds of hours to try to make that happen. Excuse me. But in turn, the customer also, Doug, the owner, was willing to do some things to ensure that there would be no hardship caused on others. Is if you look at the plot plan that Justin showed initially, the homeowner originally wanted to place his house up by the street at the top of the hill. It's very high up and it overlooks this beautiful ravine. So once we realized that, we were in a situation, I showed him all different areas where we could possibly place this home. And in doing so, he's agreed to move this home back. It's approximately 387 feet from the road. And it also goes downhill approximately 15 plus feet. So if you were to drive down Brendel Road or even drive into the subdivision, you won't even see the footprint of this home. You'll see the roof structure, which far exceeds the look of any of the homes, or let me rephrase that, falls within any of the look of the homes surrounding that area. It looks much larger. You place the deck on there, it looks like a 3,000 square foot home. So
Got about a
we have
minute left,
placed-
Jim.
Okay.
You've got
I'm
about a
sorry.
minute left.
Thank you. So we have, we're on 2+ acres. Again, we're tucking the house into trees and let's see, what else? Substantially extended the roof lines, wraparound deck. And I guess I'll just kind of complete in a more formal, forgive me, because I'm running out of time, but practical difficulty, complete conformity to footprint square foot. Using basement walls only creates unnecessary burdensomeness to the owner and the son. The approved variance, minor variance, would do substantial justice to the landowner and in return create no practical difficulty or hardship in terms of visual or financial. The plight of the owner, the minimum square foot was unknown at the time. And quite frankly, yeah, it was unknown at the time. So when we started this project, this particular home, again, I think I'm being redundant, but I hope you hear us. This home, when we started less than 1 year ago on this process, is now $80,000 more than it was for 0 changes. As a matter of fact, we took out some of the interior details to make this affordable. This is $80,000 on a 1,200 square foot home. The basement will be finished for his son. I know that doesn't technically fall into it, but it is a consideration for value. And then we strongly believe we meet the criteria of the practical difficulty for Doug and his son. And therefore we implore you to please consider all the facts, even if they're not normally within the realm of what you guys consider, as it will provide substantial justice to Doug's family and again, cause no practical difficulty or hardship to any existing or future homeowners. This is the only way he's going to be able to care for his son. He's already sold his home, and we're pleading with you to consider all aspects of this.
Thank you, Jim.
It will be a beautiful home. I'm sorry.
Any questions of the proponent? Mike, go ahead.
Yes, Jim, I'm wondering, have you and the owner talked about, boy, it's really about a 300 square foot addition to bring it up to the minimum requirements. Have you thought about the potential of an addition to the structure?
Yes, we did that. And actually we did that a few months ago and we looked at it again recently. The prices were increasing so dramatically that 300 times 300 becomes a very significant number. And unfortunately, these are homes we could have built all day long. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a custom home, but I don't want to minimize it. But these are things we could have done. And yeah, we were 5 or 10% over budget. This is not the fact. I mean, we're looking at 30, 40% above budget now. So yes, sir, we did look at that. We looked at all kinds of different things. Again, he's willing to even finish the basement, whether it be partial or whole, to create the value of the home, or to ensure. As a builder of 35 years, I can tell you this home will sell for more than most of the homes around there. I've studied it. No disrespect to anyone. So yes, sir, we have looked at that. It's just not affordable. Now he's sold his home and he owns a $50,000 lot, and there you go.
Can I say
right.
one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Can I say, I want to finish the basement to give my 19-year-old son some independence in his own place. He suffers from bipolar, depression, anxiety. He's not working now. He can't drive. And I really want to make the basement a special place and part of the house. And I know you don't I don't know why I consider that part of living space, but that will make it a 2,000 square foot home, basically. I mean, can't we put in an egress window on the side or something?
Well, it's a full walkout.
It's a
but-
full walkout, but that's
Wait,
going to be his part of the house, and I'll finish it, and it's going to be beautiful, and that should bring the value of the house way up too, also.
Sir, could we just get your name and address for the record?
Yeah, I'm Douglas Wagner, 1268 Pinecrest Drive, White Lake, Michigan,
Thanks, Doug.
48386. I've moved out, and I'm living in an RV on a lake for the summer till the house is almost built, hopefully.
Hey, I have another question if I
Go ahead,
could.
Mike.
Obviously, gentlemen, where the entire township and the building department is bound by the requirements of the zoning ordinance, of course. And that's a law in White Lake Township. And every once in a while, I mention this, that you are asking us to allow you to break the law, and it's allowed under certain circumstances. One of the issues that we will be going through, and you'll see that we have to agree on 5 different points in order to grant a variance. One of which is a non-self-imposed hardship. So did the applicant?
I'm sorry, Mike, could you repeat that last part?
Yes, the last one is you have to convince us, and we have to be convinced that it was a non-self-imposed hardship. In other words, did the applicant cause the problem that he's before us? And we'll be discussing that. And it sounds as though that it's not the cause of the property, it's not the cause of the terrain, it's not the cause of something else that's outside of your jurisdiction or your abilities. That it happened, it was a mistake, but it was kind of caused by you, and we'll kind of discuss that. Have you thought, the zoning ordinance defines what a floor is, and I apologize, I don't know it well enough, but the basement is considered a basement and not a space within the definition of the building code or the zoning ordinance, because it's covered so far all the way around or on 3 sides. Have you, you know what, I've answered my own question, because it's a minimum square footage on the ground floor. So even if you increase the square footage of the building itself, you're still under the minimum square footage of the ground floor, or the lowest room. So anyway, I answered my own question on that one, but I appreciate the concern. This is a tough one. Thank you.
Any other, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Madam Chair, so this is actually a question for our staff person. Justin, I mean, I can understand why we would, somebody would want to have obviously an open porch and open deck. I totally get that. But if that were enclosed, or what would have to happen for it to be considered?
Nicholas, can you hold just a second? I think we lost the proponent or the applicant, and
oh, wow, you're right.
It would be inappropriate to maybe go.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for catching that.
Brian, can you find our proponent for us? I think we might have lost Brian too.
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, good.
I don't know what happened. He dropped out. I will keep an eye on the waiting room to see if he pops back in.
Yeah, he undoubtedly hit the wrong button or something.
I'm assuming, can we continue with our discussion, Justin, without him being present, or?
Oh, here they are.
Oh, there we are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're muted.
Okay. Okay, and so I'll just, and Doug and Jim, can you hear me now? I just want to make sure you can hear us. Okay, great. Because I can tell you're muted on your side. Just want to make sure. So what I was just, this was the question for Justin then. I fully understand why somebody would want to have an open porch or an open deck, but I'm just curious, what would have to happen for it to be considered part of the square footage of the house, the deck?
It would have to be enclosed and heated.
Now, would that mean like seasonal screens and windows and still heated, or would it be fully like static windows that you know what I mean?
It would just have to be enclosed. So
Okay.
3
I'm not
seats.
even sure what the square footage on that part is. I'm just trying to think of other.
591 square feet, just so you know.
How many? Sorry, what was that again? How much?
The 591 square foot is the deck.
591.
It wraps
That's what
around
you
the
had
whole
said.
house.
Okay. Thank you.
One thing, Mike was saying something when we got cut off there. When we started this, we actually had a larger plan. And as you know, the owner, we continued, well, after the owner got involved before he brought us in, but he was continued to be told that the subdivision would be completely approved with all the information and all that sooner. So that's what led to the 10 months or so that we've gone through this. So he had a larger home that did meet the minimum, but since then the costs have gone up so incredibly that home is no longer viable. And that's why this is a once in a lifetime and hopefully once ever in the history of mankind that we have to go through this. So I understand that is in the so-called rules, but you know, we're all living every single day that was and adapting to things that were never in our rule system before. So I respectfully, I am a rule follower. I built in White Lake Township. Most of you guys know me. We've never had an issue. And so please understand that it wasn't just a dumb mistake. We attempted to go into this meeting all criteria. And again, after having to switch to a smaller footprint to become affordable, we lost the ability to fit within the normal guidelines. So this is not the same world, guys, and I'm asking everybody to please, it's affecting everybody.
Can I make one quick comment? I searched a long time for this home, and it's super unique. It's not like your standard cookie cutter house. I mean, when you look at the windows, the interior, the railings, I mean, this house, even a little smaller, like Jim had said, the value of it with a walkout and that sort of thing and everything connected to it and its uniqueness, I think it's going to, be worth a lot more money than some of the houses slightly bigger. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff or the proponent? Then with that,
If I could add one.
No, I'm going to open the meeting up to the public,
good.
sir. With that, Brian, I'd like to open the meeting up. Do we have anybody in the audience that wishes to speak?
No callers at the moment, Madam Chair.
Okay, I will give them the,
Madam Chair, I do have a letter that was provided. Can I read into the record for the public hearing?
okay, you want to do that while I'm waiting the seconds out in case somebody else decides to join us then?
Sure.
Thank
So because we've opened the public hearing, this is a letter that we received on April 28th. It says, "Dear members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, the builder indicates the owner purchased the lot not knowing of the minimum square feet requirements or the expense of the build. It would seem an individual needs to do their due diligence before undertaking such a project. A failure to do so in this case does not require the zoning board to correct it. My wife and I purposely sought property in White Lake because of its reputation, commitment to community, and strong adherence to the rules and codes which are in place to protect future growth, aesthetics, and value. We foresee Clare Lane developed and populated by beautiful homes and surroundings. Areas such as Clare Lane are opportunities for the township to display its best and to show other communities This is how it's done, making it an attractive and desirable place to live. We have read Mr. Quagliata's report to the board and agree with his assessment. The zoning ordinance prohibits the Zoning Board of Appeals from considering an economic hardship or financial issues when deciding a variance request. There is nothing on the petitioner's side allowing any deviation from the current code. Therefore, we respectfully oppose any variance being granted to the petitioner and ask the members unanimously deny the request. Special note, we ask if this correspondence is read into the record that our names and address be suppressed. Thank you. We did confirm that they are property owners in the vicinity.
Thank you, Justin. Brian, nobody from the audience has joined us, I'm assuming?
No, no callers.
Thank you, Brian. Then I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for additional discussion.
Madam Chair, may I comment on that
No.
letter or no?
No,
So we've got the 5 things to go through.
right, and I'm going, before I call for a motion, if there's no additional discussion, then I'm going to ask staff to review the standards as outlined in section 7.37 that the proponent must meet in order for us to grant a variance. And with that, are you ready, Justin?
Sure. So standard A is practical difficulty. A practical difficulty exists on the subject site, and strict compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the subject site for a permitted use or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Demonstration of a practical difficulty shall have a bearing on the subject site or use of the subject site and not to the applicant personally. Economic hardship or optimum profit potential are not considerations for practical difficulty.
And since we are prohibited from using any financial, there is no practical difficulty, in my opinion. Mike, I'm sorry.
Yes, not a problem. I can certainly understand and see why the applicant thinks that there's practical difficulty because he is living it. And it's certainly a major difficulty to him, both financially and probably practically, in that this is all he can afford and he might even already have the structure. But unfortunately, this section of the ordinance specifically is for dealing with do the rules and laws and the zoning ordinance of White Lake Township, do they contribute or define the practical difficulty? And this is a 2-acre site, virtually a clean slate. And unfortunately, Madam Chair, I agree with you. I don't think the zoning ordinance would agree that there's any practical difficulty presented by the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mike. If no one else has any comments on the first standard, Justin, do you want to discuss the number B?
Standard B, unique situation. The demonstrated practical difficulty results from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the subject site at the time the ordinance was adopted or amended, which are different than typical properties in the same zoning district or vicinity.
Yeah. Go ahead, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Practical difficulty, so it doesn't, I don't think this pertains.
I agree.
And I was going to say, even if it is a practical difficulty, I mean, as Mr. Powell said, it's a clean slate. The site, there's a lot of room.
Standard C, Justin? I'm sorry. I apologize, Mike.
Yeah, just, and the applicant made a very good point on the unique situation, but again, it's personal to the applicant because this is a beautiful home. Oh man, you can't, I'd live in that in a heartbeat.
I want that home, right? It's awesome.
And it is very, very unique But unfortunately, it's the unique situation is his personal one. It's not a unique situation due to the location or the lot or the area.
Thank you. Justin, number C, please.
Standard C, the applicant's problem is not self-created.
Where,
So in this, Madam Chair,
Yes, Dave.
so in this particular situation, this is, in my opinion, a self-created hardship because the applicant can build a larger area, first floor area, even though there's, it's an economic hardship on them. The applicant still can do it. So in my opinion, it's a self-created situation.
Thank you, Dave. Justin,
Madam
number
Chair.
D. Oh,
just Madam Chair. So the other part too with that is, I mean, yeah, we're all seeing this with what's happening to costs and, you know, supply lines. Obviously, changes in the economy and prices are not self-created, but that's still the economic component that we can't consider.
I agree.
To what
Justin,
sorry.
Standard D, the variance would provide substantial justice by granting property rights similar to those enjoyed by the majority of other properties in the vicinity and other properties in the same zoning district. The decision shall not bestow upon the property special development rights not enjoyed by other properties in the same district or which might result in substantial adverse impacts on properties in the vicinity.
thank you. Any comments on this before I make go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, obviously, this section is really dealing with the property. And the property is really totally independent of the problem here. And so I don't see that this property has any substantial adverse impacts that are preventing him from meeting the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
I agree, and we are not denying him the right to use the property. It's just that it can't be used unless he meets the rest of all this criteria, which, moving on to E, Justin, please.
The variance shall be the minimum necessary to grant relief created by the practical difficulty.
And I think we've determined there is no practical difficulty. Am I correct, board members?
Correct.
Thank you.
What
With
is
that, then,
Can I make a statement, Madam Chair?
yes, go ahead, Mike.
The end of our standards here make it very clear, and I just wanted the applicant to be aware that we're charged with not only hearing both sides, but also we're charged to carry out the law in the best way we can. And it really ends by saying, under no circumstances shall the Board of Appeals grant a variance to allow a use not permitted under the ordinance. So you've asked for a waiver of a law, but it really dictates to us that we cannot issue a variance if we don't find that each one of these 5 items apply. So you can see that we've tried to be as objective as possible.
May I
Thank you,
speak
Mike.
or no? Still no?
Hannah, may we have a roll call vote? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion then, please?
Madam Chair, would it be inappropriate to allow the applicant to at least say something?
I don't have a problem if the board doesn't. No, that's fine.
I don't have a problem.
No.
Go ahead then, sir.
Thank you, guys. I've been doing this as long as most of you, so I totally get the normalcy of the rules and the laws, but we're all living in something that if we don't adapt, I mean, this is crazy and serious stuff with how we have to adapt to live every day. and there's no sign of ending in sight, this will become something that I think you will be presented with on a norm. None of this is going away soon. So I don't know. I appreciate the fact that you're looking at it and considering all facets, but at some point, I think this is what our country needs, is to look at what everybody's using the word practicality, practical difficulties. Well, isn't in real life, when something is so extreme that none of us, regardless of our age, nor anyone in our family lines have ever seen, and he's trying to build a home that normally he could afford to build 3 of them, isn't that a practical situation? I say that, I'm sorry, I'm frustrated, not at you. You've all been very professional. I know the hardship that this gentleman's living in. Anyways, I mean no disrespect, but this is something that we all have to adapt to. Going to the stores, shopping, going out to eat, or not being able to go out to eat, suicides, drug addictions. I mean, I know this has nothing to do with homes, but we are a community. I'm White Lake. I've lived here for 20 something years. We're a community. And this is a situation where they have the opportunity. It's not like he's building a shed. If he were trying to build a shed and sneak something in on you, that's one thing. But this is someone trying to build a normal home that's actually a premium custom home, as you guys mentioned. But yet, due to the unique isn't even powerful enough situation for him to afford it. When we started, it wasn't a mistake. He could afford a larger home. The world is changing so fast. Now, what if this was, God forbid, anybody in your family that needed to take care of another family member? I ask you, and I don't know how to what your authority goes for administrative consideration or approval, but again, this isn't my family, but I've been a caretaker for my entire family and my immediate family who have since passed. And this is one that really tugs on my heart. And I'm sharing my heart with you that if you guys can put yourself in the situation, maybe we adapt back. Maybe this is a one-time thing, but the reality is we know it's not. And we adapt, and then we adapt back. So please, thank you for hearing me. This is crushing my heart right now, because I know what this family is going through. And it's not normal business as usual. We can always move a house 2 foot. We can make the setbacks. That's normal. But when you're trying to build the same house for nearly $100,000 more in less than a matter of months, that seems unpractical to me. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. And we do understand, but we need to acknowledge the fact that we are charged with upholding the ordinance. And yes, these are trying times. And until the powers to be at the township level make a determination to make amendments to our ordinances, we are charged to follow the rules that are laid out for us, which is what we are doing. So with that.
And just real quick, Madam Chair, it's
Yes.
not the powers that be at the township that could change that. That's from the State Zoning Enabling Act. So until your state legislature approves an amendment, we are prohibited in every community in Michigan. Every zoning board of appeals is prohibited from considering financial issues. So
Thank you, Justin. With that,
Can I say one thing?
go ahead, Debbie.
Just want to let you know that I am on the planning commission, and I was there when we did reduce the square footage requirements. And one of the reasons was because of the cost of lumber right now. That was one of the reasons. And I just want to make a statement that it is an absolutely beautiful home that you're looking to build. And it looks very custom. And I know metal roofs are very expensive, and that wood is very expensive. If you were to construct a home that fits square footage wise, because there is no practical difficulty with 2 acres, you have plenty of room. If you were to construct a home that is more traditional looking, vinyl siding, shingle roof, your costs may come down and perhaps you could build the correct square footage. That's all
Thank you, Debbie. With that, then, does anybody wish to make a motion on this case?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Dave.
I move to deny the variances requested by Creative Custom Builders for parcel number 12-08-251-027, identified as 4398 Clare Lane, due to the following reasons. This does not meet the requirements set forth by section, and if someone can help me on that, because I don't have that document in front of me here, section.
Article 3.11.J.
Okay, thank you.
I think he might be referring to the standards, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Which is
7.37.
Article 7,
7.37.
Thank you.
Do we have a support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Nick. Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Walls,
I vote yes to deny their request. It is a self-created hardship.
Shellac,
I vote yes to deny.
Spencer,
Yes to deny.
Powell,
Yes to deny.
DeHart.
Yes to deny.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, you did not get your variance. With that, our next case is Michael Lemon, 4400 McKeechee Road, also identified as 12-08-251-003. The applicant requests to install a residential swimming pool requiring a variance from Article 5.10, swimming pools, to install the pool in the front yard. For the
Thank you,
record-
Board, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For the record, 11 owner occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance request. No letters received in favor of the request. No letters received in opposition of the request. No letters returned by United States Mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
This property is just under 3.5 acres in size. It's located at 4400 McKeechee. It's located on the east side of McKeechee, south of Brendel. It is zoned suburban farms. The applicant is proposing to install a swimming pool in the front yard. A building permit was issued on March 31st for an 18-foot by 40-foot in-ground pool on the west side of the house. A variance should have been required to locate the pool in the front yard. Work on the pool had not commenced prior to intervention by the planning department. In a letter dated April 5th, staff rescinded the building permit and associated mechanical, electrical, and plumbing permits and informed the applicant a variance was required from the Zoning Board of Appeals to construct the pool in the proposed location. The zoning ordinance states residential swimming pools shall be located only behind the rear line of the home and no closer than 10 feet to any lot line. The site plan, which is on your screen, which was provided by the applicant, shows the pool encroaching, or I should say projecting. The plan labels it 123 feet and 12 inches. Well, I believe that's 124 feet in front of the rear line of the house. So the applicant is requesting a variance of 124 feet. And again, this plan does not scale. I cannot confirm the dimensions. So if you're inclined to approve this, we're going to need a revised site plan drawn to scale. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it.
Do we know, are there, actually, if you can put that back up, please, again. Between the shop and the house, and I was trying to get the best look today when I was out there. Thank you. That's okay. But yeah, behind the house, which is right up on here, it says 5, is that
51.
51? It appears that driveway is on the north as well as on the south there. is there, I mean, and I can see where the septic is, over on the side of the house. Is there any reason that the pool couldn't be between the shop and the house or even turn to the side? I mean, do we know if anything on the, and I guess this is going to be a question probably for the proponent. I'm just trying to understand if there's something in there that is preventing it from being in that location.
Nothing that I can see, but that would be a question for the proponent.
Yeah, and I'll ask that. So, yeah.
Justin, I just have a clarification comment, please. We recently had a training session and I had brought up to the attorney that ran the training session for this board that I wondered whether or not, because we are human and we make errors, such as in this case, and issued something and then had to rescind it, was it defendable in court? And she had assured us at that time that it definitely is defendable because we are human and we do make mistakes. And it's unfortunate. I wish that everyone, not just the township employees and not just the zoning board of appeals people, but each and every individual in this world never made a mistake in our lives. But that's not going to happen.
That would be so boring.
Oh, thank you, Mike. You're such a okay. With that, I'll quit talking and turn it over to the rest of you guys. And any other questions of Justin? That was my statement.
I have a technical ask of Justin. There appears to be two criteria, Justin, in your analysis. The one is the request to have the pool in the front yard, and it's required to be behind the rear of the house. But then there's a dimensional variance that you have identified there. Is that what? So what? I don't think there's a dimensional variance that's identified in the zoning ordinance. It's a statement of rear versus front. And I didn't know why you chose a dimensional variance versus just a statement of rear or front.
Because if I didn't make it dimensional, it would be a use variance and you're not allowed to grant those. So if you want to interpret it as a use variance, then we can just deny this because it's a use variance.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that.
And Justin, I'm not familiar with swimming pools. So I live right down the lake, so I go there if I ever want to swim, which I don't. However, I'm assuming there's a specific reason why swimming pools should be in the rear yard. And I'm wondering, and I'm not putting you on the spot. If you don't know the answer, you don't need to answer it. But I'm wondering if the reason that they want it in the rear yard could possibly be a safety feature so that people driving by are less likely to see a swimming pool in the rear yard than right up front in the front yard. As I'm driving down the road and I see swimming toys flying out of the pool and little kids running all around. I'm just wondering if it could possibly be that we want the pools by ordinance to be in the rear yard because it possibly could be a safety feature, and we are charged with health, safety, and welfare is the reason why I was thinking along those thoughts. And again, Justin, you don't need to answer if you don't or can't.
I'm sure it's a combination of aesthetics and safety.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and mine, Madam Chair, is just more of a statement. You've all heard me say this probably in the past when we've had little confusions, but I do think it's always important to consider that, what is the word of the township? Now, in this case, it not relating it really too much to other cases, but, we don't have a situation that I see where somebody has, begun constructing something. And then, it seems like this was caught fairly early, very quickly. Even though at the same time, you do hear me say, we have to think about honoring our word, even when those little things happen. But here it does, I mean, Justin, it appears, is it within just a week or so? I mean, is that kind of as quickly as, if I'm reading the dates correctly, that this was caught?
So the permit was issued on Wednesday, March 31st and rescinded
it's a
on
month.
Monday, April 5th.
Okay, so no, it's about 5 weeks, about 5 weeks then.
5 days.
Oh, March, April. I'm sorry. I went March, May. 5 days. Thank you. Okay.
May
I just-
hasn't even gotten here yet.
Yeah, and I want to apologize. I think I may have been a little short with Mr. Powell, so I apologize. I have a headache.
Any other questions of Justin before I turn it over to the proponent? If not, if the proponent is present, please give your name and address for the record.
Michael Lemon, 4400 McKeechee Road.
Thank you. Just let us know what it is that you want us to know, Michael, please.
Okay, well, bear with me because I'm nervous as hell. I've never done nothing like this. I've never Zoomed. I've never done anything.
You're
We'll
doing great. You're doing great.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
It's been a very stressful month. But I want to just go back real quick. Probably 4 months ago, we called the township to see if we could even do something like this. And at that time, we were just on a verbal, it was okay. And I have thought, truthfully, knocking the house down and moving the house further front. So we had room in the back, but truly did. But because of the cost to rebuild a house right now, well, that ain't gonna happen. There's virtually no room to put it in the backyard. I got a well back there. And to be so far from the house, to be so far from the shop, it won't fit. Trust me, I would like it back there. But the more I got to looking at the land, you won't see this pool as you drive by. Because the way our yard is hilly in the front and being 390 feet off the road, you'd never see this. You wouldn't see toys floating in the pool or nothing. And it's not going to be just your average pool. I mean, we're talking the time this thing's done, it's going to be an $85,000 pool. It's going to be very nice. And by looking at our property, everything I've ever done has always been top notch, and we do everything to keep it up. I even went to my neighbors and told them I'd give them a lifetime membership, and they're all good with it. And cocktails for everybody, and you guys are more than welcome to come. I don't know. I'm asking for a pool in the front yard. I don't know what else to say to state the case. Just it won't fit nowhere else. And I truly thought about knocking the house down and moving it in the front. I've never liked how the house has sat so far off the road because it has limited us. And yeah, did I need to put my shop out back? Yeah, because I don't think you guys want me to put my shop in the front yard. So that's why I went in the backyard. And I don't know, I got 7 dirt bomb grandkids that really want a pool. And that's all it comes down to. I'm doing everything in my life to have my grandkids want to hang out with me. And this will make it that they want to hang out with their grandpa. I'm a little quirky, but I'm pretty cool. I don't know what else more to say. I don't have 10 minutes to go on. I'm
Thank
just
you.
asking, can we please have a pool?
I do have a question of the applicant.
Go ahead, Mike.
Please, Mike, first of all, refresh my memory as to what your wife's name is.
Kim,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Like,
This is my wife, Kim.
thank you. She's the most important one in that room right now. So, so I have a question for you. You have 51 feet between your shop and the house, and then you have your garage there, and you have your pavement. And quite frankly, there are some beautiful trees in the backyard as well. There's a little circle that's identified between the shop and the house. Is that your well location?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there is an item there between the shop and the house that is interfering with that as well.
And actually, I don't have the dimensions, which I wish I would have put up, is where this little circle is. That's a driveway in between. There's no room north and south either with the driveways, the way they come in on each side.
Okay.
But most importantly is the well.
Yes, the well is most
Can't move our
important.
well.
Yeah. And
I mean, I guess we could.
You can, but
Madam Chair, this all answered the question I was going to ask. So thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Yeah.
you, Nick. Any other questions of the proponent?
No, I was just gonna ask about the well also.
Thank you. And I would assume wells probably could be moved, but that and Debbie, maybe you know more than I, not every piece of property, not every spot on a piece of property can have a
Correct.
well sunk, correct? I mean, they're,
Well, depends on how deep you go. I mean, if you keep going, you're gonna hit water, but
or China,
it's so far from the septic too, when your septic's out front, so
right?
better to have your well in the back and the septic in the front.
So there, in other words, I guess what I was asking was, there would be repercussions in moving the well because, and I hadn't even thought of the septic system, but I know you have to keep X feet away from the septic and the field and all, so, thank you. Go ahead, Mike.
Let me ask, Mr. Lemon, do you have a basement in your house?
Yeah, it's a quad level house, yes.
Okay, because that's structurally, that's important. Obviously, we have a foundation issue underneath the shop and the house, and you start digging maybe you can tell me, how deep is the pool proposed in the deep end?
8 feet.
Okay, so you start digging the foundations for an 8-foot pool, and you start undermining a shop and a house in the existing foundations. But what is the age of your house, Mr. Lemon?
Oh,
I think it was built in like 78.
yeah.
Did you build the home?
No.
Okay, so certainly you're not responsible for the location of the house.
No, trust me, if I would have built the house, it would have been a ranch out in the front. I hate the house. I truly do. I really wish I could knock it down and move it, and we wouldn't be talking today.
It's just between you and me. It's a beautiful setting.
Thank you.
Just a gorgeous approach to your house.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the proponent?
I have one,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair.
Go ahead, Dave.
Did you already, how much have you put out cost-wise for this pool thus far? We're not, and again, we're not here to take into consideration economics on this, but I'm just curious.
Well, I gave $28,000 non-refundable the day after I got the permit. Because believe it or not,
After we got the email.
Pools you can't find a pool. They're sold out. I mean, this is a weird world we're living in. It took us 7 months to find a diving board. There is nobody putting a pool in. Right now, if you try to do a pool, everybody will tell you no this year, they're sold out. So we locked onto it last 3 months ago, because 4 months ago when we called, they said it would be fine. And then once we got the permit in our hands, that's when I gave a guy that $28,000 is non-refundable.
Okay, thank you.
But I wasn't going to bring that up because I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, the mistakes happen, and I understand this.
And I suppose just quickly, I have an above ground pool, so I have a liner, and I'm trying to buy just a liner. It's not a matter of finances, and that's one thing that we can't consider. But the bottom line is, I can't even find one, no matter how much I want to pay for it. And so your point's well taken. That may be difficult. You'd lose an entire season, even if you could afford it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, if there's no one else that have any questions for the proponent, Brian, may we open the public hearing up, please?
Yes, we have no callers at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to give him a few seconds here. That's been 10 seconds. Still no one, Brian?
Still no callers.
Then I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for discussion or.
Well, just before we go through the 5 points, yeah, I will say when looking at it today, I'm not sure if you're going to have a fence out there or not. I mean, either way, just from that, just even from that angle looking up, I'd be hard pressed to even know that there was a pool there.
Right.
I mean, again, there might be a fence and that's fine. But I just really could not imagine that. And not only that, if one of the factors is, a matter of safety, and a matter of, not having pools in front and kids around. I mean, that's not next to the road. I mean, that's not even close to the road.
Mike, go ahead. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, Madam Chair, code is extremely explicit. There must be a 48-inch fence all the way around the pool. The maximum width between the verticals, I believe, is 3 inches. So even a small little child can't fit through the verticals. And the gate has to be self-closing. So the rules for a pool are take into account the public health, safety, and welfare issue totally. This is a zoning ordinance issue, and so the safety issue is taken care of in totally separate sections of the ordinance and building code.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Any other comments before I ask staff?
I guess I have one. Again, I walked around this site, and even the siting of a pool for a family gathering, to fit an $85,000 pool, and it'd be more than that because they'd have to move the well, between 3 structures with pavement and everything else, and the foundations of the existing structures. If I was going to locate a pool anywhere on this property, personally, I would put it exactly where he's proposing it. It's in a low area. The wind's going to be able to go. Put it this. Yeah, that's just me. That's subjective. So I wanted to share that, though.
Thank you, Mike. If there are no other comments or questions, Justin, can we go through the standards as outlined in 7.37 that the proponent must meet in order for us to grant a variance?
Standard A practical difficulty exists on the subject site, and strict compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the subject site for a permitted use, or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Demonstration of a practical difficulty shall have a bearing on the subject site or use of the subject site, and not to the applicant personally. Economic hardship or optimum profit potential are not considerations for practical difficulty.
Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, I do see a practical difficulty on this property. I don't, and I guess we'll get into the finer points as we go through these, but going to what Mike said, I mean, I cannot, knowing that the well is there in that spot, I mean, that really is just kind of the final puzzle piece for me. And I just cannot see how else you would do this.
Thank you.
It's a big piece of property. It's a beautiful big piece of property, but because of where the house is located.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that then, Justin B, please.
The demonstrated practical difficulty results from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the subject site at the time the ordinance was adopted or amended, which are different than typical properties in the same zoning district or vicinity.
Yes, I feel that this site is definitely different because of the location of the house. It's so far back on the site. So.
Thank you, Debbie.
I can probably, to get into the specifics of this item, I would bet there's been a tremendous amount of change in the zoning ordinance since this house was built. And so otherwise the homeowner might have said, yeah, we might want a pool 50 years from now. And so let's move the house up. So I see a very unique situation here.
Thank you, Mike. C, Justin, please.
The applicant's problem is not self-created.
No, it's not.
They did not build the home.
No.
Now we could, on one hand, we could address the fact that, I mean, the shop was built, but at the same time, like the proponent said, I mean, we wouldn't have wanted the shop in front.
Well, the zoning ordinance allows accessory structures in the front yard if it's not a pool. So
I guess mine's more
It's
of a
it's
want.
unfair, or not an unfair, but it's not a correct statement that we don't want the shop in the front yard because the zoning ordinance would allow it.
Okay. Let me make it a correct statement. I don't want somebody's shop in the front yard. Just
Fair enough.
not we. I.
Agreed. I agree with you. I'm just telling you the zone. what
No,
the
fair
zoning
enough.
ordinance
Yeah,
says.
fair enough. I have to use the I and the we carefully. But they didn't build the house there. They didn't put it there.
The only, and this is where it's very subjective. He's asking for something that he doesn't need to live. I mean, he's asking for a pool, for heaven's sake, for his grandkids. And I just got this picture. If he put a 6-foot round pool, 12 inches high in the backyard, he'd have a little pool for his grandkids. But quite frankly, that's not my definition of a pool. So.
D, Justin, please.
The variance would provide substantial justice by granting the property rights similar to those enjoyed by the majority of other properties in the vicinity and other properties in the same zoning district. The decision shall not bestow upon the property special development rights not enjoyed by other properties in the same district or which might result in substantial adverse impacts on properties in the vicinity.
Well, I don't think it's going to have a negative impact on any of the properties in the vicinity at all. And I think if the summers keep getting hotter and hotter, a pool would be nice.
And I would surmise that other people with this amount of property, if they didn't have the non-self-created, they would be able to put a pool down. And maybe some have.
Go ahead, Mike.
Madam Chair, I kind of looked to the north and south from this parcel, and it was interesting. If the neighbor to the north were to build a pool, it would be virtually identically in the same location, east-west, that this applicant's proposing, because their house is way forward. And so even though they put it in the rear yard, it would still be in the same location away from the road that this applicant is. And so since this is, in my opinion, the only logical place to put a pool, there'd be a substantial injustice if he was not allowed to put a pool in.
Thank you. And E, Justin?
The variance shall be the minimum necessary to grant relief created by the practical difficulty.
You know what, guys, this is a really interesting one. And it goes back to, even though Justin slapped my hand just a little bit, it kind of goes back to the reason I asked the question, because in the front yard or rear yard, that's really the definition, but we can't give a use variance, so it's a dimensional variance. It could move closer to the house than 124 feet, which would be less of a variance, but it's still in the front yard versus the backyard. I looked at it as far as the terrain though. There's a substantial rise in terrain from where they're proposing to put the pool up to their house, including landscape walls coming up to their house. And so there's certainly an issue of terrain, but I was curious what Justin's opinion might be regarding the minimum variance, because 120 feet is less of a variance than 124 feet, but the same end result. And I didn't know about that impression.
So you're asking for my opinion?
No, that was my way to sneak in my subjective opinion.
Okay.
Are we ready for a motion? If so, who would like to make it?
I'll make
I
it.
will make the motion. I'm sorry, was somebody else about to do it?
No,
Debbie
go
was going to
ahead.
do it.
No,
Go
go
for it,
ahead.
Debbie. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I move to approve the variance requested by Michael Lemon from Article 5.10 of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 1208 251003, identified as 4400 McKeechee Road, in order to install a swimming pool that will project 124 feet in front of the rear line of the house. This approval will have the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from White Lake Township Building Department, and a site plan drawn to an engineer's scale should be submitted prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Do we have a support? Go ahead. Thank you, Nick. And Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
You sure can. DeHart,
Yes.
Shellac,
Yes.
Pauls,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Spencer.
I was going to vote no because originally I did think that this was, there was no practical difficulty, but with the indication that the well is where the rear yard area is, I will vote yes as well. You have your permit, Michael and Kim. Give staff about a week or so to get a rough draft copy of the minutes. You'll need to take that to the building department, and keep in mind that they're also going to want the site plan drawn to an engineer scale submitted prior to the issuance of that building permit.
Do I need to fill out all new permits, or are the ones the application?
I think the application is okay. They're just going to want that plan drawn to an engineer scale, and then bring our minutes in so that they can see you were before us. We gave you the approval to proceed.
Okay.
But in
Congratulations.
any
Yeah,
event,
congratulations.
go ahead and call Justin. He'll answer the rest of the questions for
We're
you.
calling in first thing in the
Thank
He's the
morning.
one that gets paid the big bucks.
Thanks for your time.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Any other business before this board? Justin?
No other business.
Our next meeting date is May 27th. It's our regular meeting. I understand we have a few at this time.
Yeah, I think it won't be as many as last week. So, yeah.
Yay.
It will be a Zoom meeting, will it not, Justin?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're going to be Zooming for a few more months, I'm assuming.
I believe through August.
Okay. So glad I got to see some of you when we did our training. That was kind of cool.
That was great.
Yes, it was indeed. It'd have been even greater to see you in person, Mike, but
Yes.
Brian, as always, thank you very much for your assistance this evening. I
No,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Appreciate everything you do. Sorry, I was hoping to get us out of here by 7, but
Well, now that, we're asking all these questions,
I know.
which is
I
a
know.
good thing. It's a good thing.
It is.
It's actually,
It is a good
I'm
thing.
liking it.
You
It's
guys
very
you're doing very well with the standards. If you want my opinion, I'm
We
sorry.
do want your
I'm
opinion.
sorry. I'm sorry.
We
I was
do.
a little short tonight. I had.
I didn't hear it.
I'm blaming a headache, but I kind of snapped at Mr. Powell, and I feel really bad.
Don't feel bad. He deserved it.
I deserve
I didn't
it.
even catch it.
No, he did not. So not at
Oh,
all.
and just because it's more efficient, Debbie, I've emailed you the information. Okay.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Let me know what you need anymore. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Have a good night, everyone. Oh, we have to
Good
make a
night.
motion. Motion to
Motion.
adjourn.
Oh,
yeah.
motion to adjourn?
Motion to have a good night.
All right, we have a motion from Debbie. Did we have a support?
Support.
We got a support from Dave. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.